We're talking model range refreshes here on the channel today. Roll that intro. Welcome to Corner Case. You're in the hobby corner. I'm your host, your stale bread, your best friend, Deck. So I always thought that model range refreshes were like kind of a weird topic in miniature gaming. Y'all know that I started from X-Wing 1.0 and Malifaux 2nd edition. And X-Wing 1.0, obviously all the models are brand new, so there's no model range refresh going on there. And Malifaux 2nd edition, I think in retrospect, did a really great job of doing it video game way. And by that, I mean, they launched like pretty much a brand new edition with like a bunch of models. They're all brand new. Like basically any model from 1.5 or 1E, those aren't like things people play or the things that you really see at the store. It's all like 2nd edition stuff onwards. And I actually think, again, in retrospect, they did the best job of any miniature game company I've seen of just committing to like a really specific design language at that point. And so even if they were making like small refinements to that design language, I don't currently foresee Malifaux doing like such a significant range refresh that, you know, the 2nd edition design language onward, there's going to be any disparity. So I think they've done a really good job in that regard. And additionally, I think they've really focused their efforts on refreshing kind of the models that matter. So for example, Malifaux has the master models. I play Arcanist. I have probably like 3 different Colette models, maybe 4. Oh no, I think I have like 5 Colette models. I have like 3 or 4 Karis models. I have all the Rasputina models. So including first edition models and the limited stuff. So, you know, they kind of refresh the master models that matter a little bit more often. And it's kind of cool that, you know, like mechanically you can kind of use the version you want. They're all mostly on the same base size. I think that's been done super well. Infinity does it super well too, but I think less good for me because they do refreshes more often and their design language changed drastically in the last like 10 years, like 2 times, I think. And I think the weird thing about them is they tend to like end of life models super fast. So then people kind of have this different problem of like, how do I even get this thing? It's like you're just trying to get a Drago and it's like a single model. They're trying, like the aftermarket's trying to charge you like $80 for it and it's like half painted and missing an arm. So I mean, that's like a different problem. But just in terms of model range refreshes, I didn't really understand what was going on about it until I started to like understand 40K. I jumped into 40K at the start of 8th edition. My first army was Death Guard. They didn't really have like a model range before, so I wouldn't really call that like a range refresh, but people were like really upset about the intercessors at the time. And like, just like as a newcomer, like kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm not gonna lie, like y'all did not make me feel like that was like a good thing to be around. And from my perspective too, I was just seeing these new intercessor models and I was like, these look freaking sick. Like the old Space Marine models, the way they're sculpted, it looks like they don't even know how the greaves and the feet like go together. Like the old models were so bad, even though they're plastic, like some of the designs were really not that good. So this new intercessor stuff was actually good, but it seemed like the community was kind of upset about it. And then every subsequent release over the next couple years, I feel like for the most part, you know, they had some new stuff like Speed Freaks and like, you know, all the Gene Stealer cult stuff. But for every like new thing they did, they had like some update of like an old thing. And I always thought that was super, super bizarre. Before I used to think this, because they would just release this model and it would just be like, here's Abaddon. He's like in the exact same pose as he was like back then, but he's just like in higher fidelity. And so I didn't really get that. I was just like, why do you want this? Like I would just play with my old one. And then I thought about it a little bit more and I was like, you know what? Actually, think about what if like Street Fighter V came out, but they never had to like update the Blanca design. So then you got like Blanca from Street Fighter 2 Turbo and he's like pixelated as fuck. And you have like pixelated ass Blanca fighting against like a brand new sparkling like 3D Ryu. Then I realized like, okay, so that's actually like kind of the feeling, you know, like you have your Warhammer 40K 10th edition or whatever, and you're playing, you know, 10th edition like Gilliman Ultramarines army, and then you got your like 2nd edition Eldar, you know, it's like you got your Street Fighter 2 Turbo Blanca up in this, and that just isn't right, you know. So now I realize like, okay, so range refreshes do kind of make sense, but then the staggered release is like kind of what makes it weird. So then like they're releasing it, their 10th edition like 40K game, and yeah, they have their like sparkly new intercessor marine. So like imagine like a Street Fighter cover, so like a Street Fighter cover and you have a brand new sparkling Ryu and you still got like 2nd edition Blanca on there and you're just like, what the So now I feel like it's kind of weird. Why can't they do it like a video game way, where like a new edition means new models as well? Like that's what Malifaux did for 3rd edition. They released a new rule set and they came out with new core boxes for like almost every master. You know, I don't think that happened all in the same month, but like within like a year, I think most of them were done. And they didn't refresh every single model, you know, they refreshed the ones that matter. So the Marcus box came out and the new Marcus model, the Rasputina came out and she was like the new Rasputina model, but Ironsides came out and it was the same Ironsides model, and that's fine. So not every model needs to get refreshed. So I thought that was like pretty well done and handled with like a little bit of care, I think. Now, I won't say that for every like weird release, but if I just think in the context of like range refreshes, I think this weird staggered release of like basically starving Eldar players of like a range refresh in like damn near 30 years is kind of weird. Like, why did you even stick around that long? So then think about like the Games Workshop model again of like staggering it. What if you like were playing Street Fighter, you had to buy the Blanca character, so that's like the rule set, and then you had to buy like every single one of his moves. That's like pretty much like what buying an army is. Like, you don't get a full play experience if you don't have like all the units, you know, you don't have all your options. It would be like if you were playing Blanca and you're like in competitive play and you're like, yeah man, I got this far without having to buy heavy punch. You know, I got light punch though. I use light punch all the time. And it just like doesn't make any sense. Like, I wonder if there's a way to consolidate that experience. Like, what if, like, is there a way that Games Workshop can go to more of like a selling a full experience kind of model? Because I do have to say that like what Malifaux did, where they released all these like core boxes within like a year and then like with the new rule set, that's like not easy to do. It's like definitely like a big spend. So maybe that's where we think about, what about all your resources that are going into printing and designing these stupid books? What about, are there important models that you do have to refresh and then models that you don't have to? Like, what if they just refreshed just like the troops and then they're just more conservative with how they design like the big monster models, and then maybe they offered the monster models in some degree as like STLs? What if they actually sold STLs for upgrades instead of trying to do this like whole Forge World thing or like upgrade sprue thing? I think they would actually be more profitable, because like for the upgrade sprues, I don't think they can like really justify that high of a volume on them, but they still got to pay like tooling costs. So maybe if it's just like an upgrade sprue, they can actually just sell their own STLs. I don't know if that would be like conflicting with their current like methodology too hard. I don't know if they feel that way, but at this point, like, I would just, if I were them, just swallow my pride a little bit and just try to make some money, like in a decent way. I did not mean for this to be like an anti-GW rant. I just think that refreshing models is just such a weird topic. Everyone online, I just see these comments like, oh, when are they going to give me this? When are they going to give me that? And then the other half of the community is like, well, I'm just going to 3D print my own. And I think that totally makes sense. Really, I just think that refreshing models is weird, and doing it in a staggered like 30-year period is also really weird. And then the people who actually still want it after the 30 years is kind of weird too. I'm not judging though. I don't think I'm judging. Anyway, that was the video for today. Thank you for swinging by. Please like and subscribe. We're always desperate. And we'll see you next time.
Even in death, I still subscribe.